Just waiting for it to show up on YouTube. Okay. Hello, everyone. Or should I say hello, lovely learneds. Welcome back to the next live chat. I'm still trying to figure out how to find it on my YouTube channel, but I'm working on it. I can't seem to it just doesn't pop up. It takes like forever, and I want to be able to post there to let people know to come over to here to see. Darn networking and stuff. Anyways, thank you for joining me. Didn't really have any particular subject matters to discuss. Just figured we could chit-chat and whatever. I was going to yabber on about myself until you guys asked questions or commented about yourself. I really enjoyed getting to know everyone last time that we chatted and sharing music and stuff like that. So I was hoping we could get into some chats like that again. We will see. Oh, you know what? It's probably going to show up in my video manager as private, and then I have to like unprivatize it or something. Nope, it's not showing up. Well, we shall wait for it. Hopefully it will show up. In the meantime, one thing I did mention in my last just little vlog, my Fibro Journal, is I was kind of thinking to yammer on about myself, of course, for to fill in the time when no one's talking, and to doodle and make art. And if anyone at the end of the session, hello, welcome, hi, thank you so much for joining me. I was thinking of doing some art and doodling during the time that we're chit-chatting while there's some lags, and then if anyone likes it at the end, I can send it to you. I don't know, we'll see. So thank you so much for joining me. Lulu, I really appreciate that you're here. I'd be talking to myself otherwise, so it's nice to see you. How have you been? Good, I hope. Yeah, I do enjoy doing art, just as a time filler. It's funny, it's actually fellow YouTubers who have got me back into it. I've always been an art person, but I ended up dropping it after school because of, trauma and reasons, but oh, yeah, took a while to get over here from Twitter. Oh, you just reminded me. I need to share my thingy over on Facebook. I meant to do that, and I completely forgot. But I'm glad that someone found it on Twitter. And welcome to the new person who just joined. Thank you so much for watching. Just chit-chatting about life, except I forgot to be like, okay, now come join, people. Come join. It is on Twitter? Okay, good. So I want to share it on Facebook one more time. I told everybody to come join me in a half an hour, but I want to make sure that everyone knows to come join me now. Come join in. YouNow account. Hopefully this gets more people. Publish. Okay. So anyways, at least it shares on Twitter. That's a handy thing. Yeah, you were encouraged to do some art again, which you did this summer. Awesome. Oh, you're gonna be doing some writing? Oh, you're a writer. That's fair enough. Oh, right. I didn't recognize the name, of course. Durr. Yeah, a funny thing, now that you mention writing, visual journaling. Ooh, that's a nice way of calling it, because it's really good to get your emotions out that way. Yeah, I was just recently thinking of writing a book. Funny thing. I have a lot of different ideas and different things that I want to share with the world, and it's sort of, I've mentioned to you guys a few times that I want to be a speaker, and I want to sort of share my experiences with others and motivation and help people in life with ideas and advice and stuff like that. And it hit me that I should try to put it all together into a book that's more consumable and people can actually get it all in one. I can put all my ideas in one thing. So that's something I'm going to be working on, which will be interesting. Oh, so you have blogs about unblocking one's art and self-esteem and stuff. Right. Oh, yeah, I've checked out those. They're really good, Lulu. For anyone who's not familiar with what I'm talking about, I'll try to link my Twitter in the description of the YouTube video that ends up with this, and you guys can go check out Lulu's different blogs. They're really helpful for different mental health things. I completely agree. Thank you for mentioning those. So anybody who's interested can go check those out on Twitter. For anyone who is watching this on YouTube, just an FYI, I'm a little bit clueless, still figuring this out, but I can't see any of your comments or anything on YouTube, so come over to the YouNow page so you can participate, because then I can see your comments. Yeah, you're welcome, Lulu. I mean, you've got some good stuff on Twitter, some really supportive and helpful things, I think, so I will definitely try to remember to, actually I'm going to make a note right now so I don't forget, to put that in the description. Here, put it right here on my little thing. Lulu's Twitter. Because I completely agree about sharing information, ideas, and support, and, it's helping each other out as much as we can. So I'm going to share that so that other people can find those resources. Oh yeah, sure. Do send me a link to your book if you don't mind. Blah blah blah. My brain is, sometimes you're on a thought train and then it just stops. But yeah, no, definitely send me that link, please. And thank you. I'm so glad to know that you found support from my vlogs. That's what they're for. Yeah, no, my brain just likes to just fart and then be like, yeah, no, you might have been on a train thought there, but you can forget about that now. So sorry about that. But anyways, yeah, I think one of the best ways to work on coping with mental health is understanding yourself and understanding what's going on, and that happens through mutual support. So I will definitely be sharing those links below. Thank you for that, Lulu. And if anyone else wants to share anything, that they might have mental health wise, to add to the links below, of course, please do share that. But we're here to just chat about whatever. So feel free to pitch in. I see that there's 5 people watching. Thank you so much. But Lulu's the only one chatting with me right now, so feel free to comment, you guys, if you want. In the meantime, I'm going to doodle and yammer. So I figured one thing that I haven't really done is giving you guys, oh, thank you so much, Nick. That's very kind of you to say. Oh, thank you so much, Lulu. I'll check out that link on Twitter when I'm done with this chat. So I figured today I would go into blabbering about my background a little bit, because I haven't really given you guys a lot of context other than maybe some of my abuse videos about, my background too much. So a little context. My channel's more supposed to be about sharing ideas and, being the change you want to see and being progressive and stuff like that. It's not supposed to be about me, but I've come to find that people like to connect in that way and learn about you. So gonna jabber on about that. For anyone who hasn't picked it up through my description and stuff, I am Canadian, and I've spent a lot of my life in London, but I actually didn't move here until it was just before my 13th birthday. If anybody remembers the great power outage of the sort of New York, Southern Ontario area, I can't remember what they called that, but for me, it's just the great power outage of 2003. That's when I moved to London. So it was quite an experience, first moving to the city and then everything just not working. Oh, are you from France, Lulu? Well, some people, I'm not sure if it got into the news, how much it got into the news, because like a very significant portion of North America was black for like a week. And really interesting thing about that has been noted a lot in our local areas. A lot of people who didn't know each other got together and like met, and okay, yeah, and like it was just a lot of talk in the news about how amazing it was that neighbors who had lived together or lived beside each other for decades had never talked, and then when this power outage happened, everybody started getting together and having barbecues and basically cooking all the meat that was about to go bad and talking and being a community and connecting, and it was really cool. Yeah, you never forget. Was there free beer, Nick? That's amazing. I wasn't old enough to know, although I was admittedly drinking those days. Not good, but I wouldn't know. I couldn't gone to the bar, so I didn't know that I guess they would hand it out, right? Because it's just going to go stale anyways and gross because it'll be all warm. So that would have been quite the experience. Yeah, no, exactly right, Lulu. Just that's what I've thought a lot. Everybody keeps thinking, if the internet went down or if all power went out, that it would just be utter chaos, and yeah, no one would be able to stare into their smartphones anymore. It's funny, um, but I really think people would come together. Like people don't have enough faith in humanity, in my opinion. Um, or running after pixel creatures. Nice. Yeah, Pokemon. That's hilarious. I don't know. A lot of people are pessimistic and they think that it'll be some kind of like Armageddon or not Armageddon, but apocalyptic type thing if people didn't have all the technology that we do. And I mean, sure, we'd have issues with healthcare and stuff like that, but I really think people would come together. I have a little bit more faith in humanity than the average person, I guess. And I think that power outage was a great example. It was like evidence to that opinion because people really did come together in those times. And it seems a lot more when stuff goes bad. Like, okay, a great example is old-time war policy. You don't, you never, or both sides agreed that they wouldn't attack the, what am I trying to say? Basically the ambulances of each other. Like they wouldn't attack the ill, the injured that were trying to be taken out of the war zone. How is that not people working together once stuff goes bad? Both sides are agreeing, okay, I won't attack that vehicle because it's taking the injured away. And yet they're at war. That's a way of working together, in my opinion. So, interesting ideas. But yeah, back to right? I like to think, and we are a species of community. It only makes sense that like literally it's been proven that the human brain doesn't develop properly without social interaction, social development. So we depend on each other in order to prosper and progress, and thus why not help each other? And thus I'm sure we would. I don't know. That's how I move through life. But anyway, so yeah, 2003 was when I moved to London, which was, a while ago now. That's 13 years, and I'm 26, so that's half my life. Shit, I didn't even realize that. Derp. Time flies, eh? Gosh. Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, sure, I shouldn't make it so cut and dry that, they just simply wouldn't attack. I'm sure anyone like I have a good friend Aiden who fair enough. He's a really good history buff and he would give me shit for trivializing it like that. It wasn't that simple, but it was a thing that did occur to a degree in terms of the war times, and it's an example where I really feel people come together when help is needed. But yeah, time flies, right? Oh my god. I just had my 26th birthday a month ago and I feel like an old fogey. And my friends turning like 27, a lot of my friends are turning 27. My spouse is turning 30 in a few months. And so it's just like, time keeps going by. Oh, well, belated happy birthday, Lulu. My birthday was in October as well. October babies, yay! Once I moved to London, life was October 20th, cool. Mine was the 8th. Libra babies, yeah. My life was really different living in the city. If for anyone who's grown up in small towns, you get airheads, silly. But anyways, you get until you get exposed to bigger cities, you don't really realize it. But living in a small town can really isolate your mindset and just what you think's going on in the world, the diversity that you experience. Because you only know what you grew up around. And even when you travel to the city, if you don't actually live in the city, you just don't really get exposed to the same level of diversity and the concepts of being open to other people's experiences and that they're different from yours but just as valid. So there's a big change in 2003 for me. Yeah, so like no matter where you are in the world, I'm sure it's the same, France, Canada, anywhere. Small town to the city, it's just a big difference, right? And so when I was in living in the small town, I had a lot of concepts of, like, I never interesting thing, I guess I'll back up a little bit more. I never learned racism until I went to school. Something I always sort of give my parents credit for, even though in a lot of ways they failed a lot. But putting that aside, that's another story. They never taught me to discriminate against people. In like based on any culture or any color of their skin or anything like that. It was always how a person treated you. I mean, if they treat you nice, then they're a cool person. If they treat you like crap, then they're not a nice person. And yeah, most parents are flawed. No parent is perfect. I never mean to imply that. But, you know, to outline my parents not being the most perfect, the two most memorable things that I remember my parents saying to me was, I went to my dad complaining about feeling ugly when I was younger. I thought I was an ugly child. And yeah, I appreciate that they didn't teach me discrimination a lot, but they were not the smartest people when it came to emotions at times. So like, went to my dad about not feeling pretty, and he turned to me, didn't even think, like he really didn't, it was such an absent-minded thing. It's not something to condemn him for, but he said, oh, don't worry, you'll be beautiful when you get older. And it's just like, thanks, Dad. And, you know, at the same time, you know, I'm older, so I guess I should be like, yay, I'm pretty now. But at the same time, then it was confirmation to me that I was ugly then. So it was a blow to the self-esteem. And that was just, he just didn't think. It was an absent-minded comment. And that's sort of an example of like the derp of my parents' parenting. And then my mom, the one thing I always remember her telling me, which wasn't really a bad comment, but it's just an example of how my childhood was. I grew up poor, quite poor, I would say. I mean, there's worse, but it felt quite poor. Definitely under the poverty line. And I would follow her around sometimes while she was cooking supper, and she just sort of turned to me and said, honey, don't grow up like me. Finish school. Because she dropped out in grade 10. And it was like a brick wall that never left me. I felt like I smacked up right against it, and then like was like, oh my God, life realization. I am poor because you didn't finish school. So I should finish school, and then all my problems will be solved because I'll have money. Durr. Let's be real, finishing school does help you in like getting a more open mind of the world and learning more and being more able to attain more information, because the more you progress in school, the more you learn to gain information and to attain your own information. So, you know, it's still good to finish school, but education and a job are not the answers to all problems. I have so many emotional problems from being neglected and self-esteem issues that I thought were just going to be fixed as soon as I got a job and could provide for myself better than my mom did. So yeah, it was this weird, really helpful thing to like help me stay in school by accident, but there's so much more to life that I needed to learn that she just couldn't teach. Yeah, school, that's another thing. I've lost a lot of faith in school because it's so much more now about blurbing it out in memory and not, they don't really teach you to understand. They throw facts at you. So like, I appreciate education, and my channel is about education, but I hate the structure of school, and I will probably never put my children in it if I end up having kids, because yeah, it's just like, yeah, like you said, eat this information. It's just like, take this, hold it in your brain. Doesn't matter if you understand it, just hold it, and then puke it onto our paper and prove that you're smart. And so there's actually a lot of really, really smart or intelligent people in the world that like understand or know and can retain a lot of these facts, but they don't actually understand a lot of the things behind the facts. Like they have the facts of how certain things in science work, but they don't understand why it works that way. And so yeah, that's what makes a lot of people like super smart but not really want to pursue things further, because they're not taught to understand. They're just taught to consume the information. It's a really sad thing that, like, I certainly hope to overcome when I have kids, but it's something I have to, it's a constant thing you have to filter through with information that you're getting every day at the same time, because it's always, everyone's always trying to, sort of in the way they do with school, tailor their information to a very specific audience, and then, in a sense, force you to fit into that audience. It's weird. It's this, the advertisers and selling stuff, consumerism, it all comes together in school as well, because ultimately school is still very based in controlling people, unfortunately. I mean, they say that it's good and it's a positive thing for society, but it's really only because they want robotic studies and normalizing. It's about turning people into these little drones that will just do what the government wants. I don't know how else to say it. I don't want to sound anti-government, but there's just, I don't want to get into that. Yeah, there's a lot to that. I should make a video on that someday. But anyways, oh, hi, Tobias. But yeah, oh gosh, I think it's a huge problem in the entire world, let's be real. But not getting into too serious of subjects now. They don't take individuals into account. Yeah, saying teaching math is artistic children who cannot do, or sorry, artistic children who cannot do anything about numbers. Well, yeah, and so an interesting thing about your comment is math can be artistic, and art can be mathematic. Everything is just about perspective, and in schools, they just like, they're like, here's this square hole, everybody fit through it, I don't care what shape you are, and if you don't fit, you're the problem. And it's just like, no, actually, screw you. There's some damn geniuses out there that failed your grades because your grades are stupid. So, yeah, exactly. Schools are so rigid, and I don't know. So yeah, though I really appreciate the education that I've gotten, and I still visit the high school I went to a lot and like love it for a lot of different reasons. I just not into the school system anymore. Don't support it. Not too proud that I went to university, particularly the university I went to. I went to Western University here in London, and they're just so corporate now. They're so business, like, give us your money, we don't care. It's just like not something to be proud of, in my opinion. But anyways, backing the story up a little. So I grew up in a town north of Toronto. Hi, Duke. Thank you so much for joining us. This town, I don't really care to name it. It's called Bolton. You guys can easily Google it. It's like grown into basically a glorified suburb of Toronto. Rich people live there, and then will go and drive into Toronto for their job. And I lived on basically the poor street, the what do you call, housing, type street when I was there. And my mom decided when I was, well, okay, back up a little. When I was in grade 6, I had a really terrible time because we started a new school and I tried to make new friends, but then I caught lice. And you know how lice messes with your repertoire in school to the point that you're now like garbage, right? So like I was the garbage of the school. It's a good time. No. And that was really hard on me. So I decided I wanted the hell out. And so that summer, lice are the Borg, right? Right? They're terrible. So it doesn't matter if you tell kids that lice go for the clean heads. They still call you dirty. So that summer I convinced my aunt to let me move in with her. It had always been a dream of mine to live with her for years, and I finally convinced her and my mom to let me do it, and my aunt had lived here in London. So I moved here, and I went to a French immersion school, because she wanted it to be, like, for there to be a reason that I was moving not just because I wanted to, but like for a special school. So she tried to get me into an art school because I was an art person, but it was harder. So she got me into French immersion, and it was a good experience. It was nice, but I didn't really like living with my aunt and my uncle of the time. She was a lot more strict than my mom, which for a lot of reasons was honestly better. There's a lot more structure in my life. There was always food in the fridge. The place was always clean. These are things that weren't a thing at the house I lived with my mom, but I felt so restricted. I couldn't go over to my friend's house because she didn't know my friend's parents. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, I would wander to the other side of the town living with my mom and she wouldn't care as long as I came home eventually. And I could go into anyone's house and do whatever I wanted. And I was just like, my mom was a very passive parent, so I could do whatever I wanted a lot. And to be so restricted, it was sort of suffocating. And so I used, right around that time, some stuff had started to come out. Yeah, I needed something a little between, right? Not super strict and not super passive, but I had my choices, one or the other. Right around that time, some stuff started coming out about my personal life because, how do you say, an older family member, one of my cousins' fathers, who had been involved with myself and all of my siblings and himself, he had unfortunately been molesting various different people, myself included, and this started to come out right around the time I was living with my aunt. So I used that as an excuse to move back home because of all the court stuff. But the truth was I just didn't feel comfortable living there. I wanted out of how restricted I felt, which was really funny and interesting that it seemed like such a valid excuse to want to move home, but it wasn't true. And then 6 months later, my mom decided she didn't want anything to do with Bolton. She was done. There was, what did she say? Bolton's a dead-end town. There's nothing here, I think was something she said. And she decided she wanted to move everyone to London. I was infuriated. I had spent up to that time feeling like really alone in Bolton, really isolated, friends here and there, but like didn't have a whole lot. But then I started to hang out with teenagers who were older than me. I started to feel like I belonged in social groups. Honestly, not the greatest influences. I was drinking and smoking and doing stuff. No, to clarify, Lulu, my aunt lived in London. I lived in Bolton. I moved with my aunt in London, and then I moved back to Bolton with my mom. And then my mom decided to move everyone to London. I don't know why. She just decided that London was a better place to live. Yeah. I was none too pleased because I had just developed a friend group and I was getting in a lot of trouble. Like actually before I'd even moved back with her, I had gotten caught by the police for stealing a flashlight for no good reason. I just wanted to take something. I wasn't a very good child. Attention, I guess. I wanted attention from the people I was spending time with. These were troublemakers. They stole, they drank, they smoked. I was smoking cigarettes at the time, various different things. Not good stuff. So I had a bit of a troublesome childhood, we'll say, like very troublesome. She moved us to London and we lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment with 5 people. It was cramped. It was very cramped and we had a lot of animals too, so. Yeah, and the city, you'd think the city is more expensive, but that's actually not true. I mean, in some ways, I guess like maybe rent, but I mean, okay, so the reason it would have been more expensive for us is because we moved out of housing into just regular renting situations, but yeah, I was searching for myself. That's true. And like my parents were, yeah, limited. That's a good way of saying it. They really didn't parent, I would say. So I just went off and did my own thing. And also, my brother and sister would get in trouble a lot, and I was the one who was like, so that's how you don't get caught. Okay. So, like, I did a lot of things that they just never knew about. My mom thought that my sister didn't start drinking till she was like 16, and I was like, what? Dude, we were drinking together at 12. You know nothing. And parents. But yeah, so we lived in a very small apartment with a lot of people and a lot of animals, and it was very cramped and uncomfortable. Didn't appreciate it. Had a really hard time that year in school because I had decided over the summer that I wanted to be a punk. That I wanted to show my anger and my emotions through my clothes and be original in that way. And then I went to a school where no one else was like that. So through a series of one girl being popular and deciding she didn't like me, yeah, in a sense, I tried to be a rock chick, but it didn't go well. I got picked on really hard. I got in fights. I got suspended because of just people choosing to pick on me because I was saying that I was the tough girl, and they're like, okay, I guess I'm going to prove myself by fighting the tough girl. I don't know, that's my speculation. Kids are kids, right? They're crazy. They would like stalk me because they lived down the street from me. They would stalk me back from school to home for like a few weeks. It was kind of dramatic. Yeah, kids are real jerks. They're so cruel. Some of the cruelest people. I mean, I think back to some of the stuff I did, and I'm just like, I was a real douche. So, like, we can all be really cruel sometimes, right? But it's about learning from those times, I like to think. And you know, kids are really just like, they can say some of the meanest things, but they're just, like you say, testing and feeling out their limits. So, you know, in one sense, it's sort of natural. In another, bullying, yeah, is definitely one of the biggest problems in schools. And I don't know how I feel about the anti-bullying policies that are going on these days. I don't think they're fully addressing the actual problems. Like, they're not going to the bully and being like, what's wrong at home that you're attacking other people? They're not recognizing that people have reasons to be bullies. They're just being like, don't do that. That's wrong. Punishment. And that just doesn't help, right? What brought me to Canada? I was born here. That's a funny question, Duke. Yeah, no, I'm born and raised Canadian. I've traveled to the US a couple times, and I've traveled to Fiji a couple times, but never really been out of Canada otherwise. Yeah, exactly. The root of the issue is what I was trying to discuss with the bullying thing. And I just don't feel a lot of things do that right now. They're very much about punishment and condemning and holding the children responsible for their actions instead of discerning why they're doing it. They don't really seem to care why they're doing it. They just want to stop them. So there's no methodology around human psychology, basically. Like, they're not addressing it as, why would this person do this? They're just condemning the person and saying, you chose to. And with that, the problem continues, in my opinion, because the person just gets angry that they're being stopped, and there's no help to why they feel that way. People do things based off emotions. We're emotional beings, and those emotions come from situations. And yeah, people just don't recognize that. Yeah, broken homes, domestic violence, and yeah, it can be really bad in a lot of different situations, and particularly hard, I think, on teens, because when you're in an abusive home and you just grow up that way, it can sometimes be like, you know, okay, this is just the way it is. But once you start developing your hippocampus, you can start reasoning and being like, wait, this isn't right. Even if you always felt it wasn't right, you can really, like, the strength to those thoughts gets really loud because of the fact that you're able to start reasoning more. And so that's why I think sometimes teens struggle a lot, is because they're starting to develop the ability to, like, get out of being told that they should be abused and question things, and it just makes it so much more tumultuous for them. And I mean, unfortunately, when you're not a teen, you're so much more powerless about doing anything about your situation. God, I remember feeling that way about, like, my childhood, just absolutely unable to impact anything. that's why I like try to offer information the way I do on my channel for all ages to like feel less powerless out of lack of information. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's very true. The more you understand, the more you ask questions, the more you understand, the more you ask questions, the more you realize you don't know. But at the same time, that's how you learn. And respect how much there is to be learned. Yeah, public service, Becca. That's funny. Thanks, Lulu. Well, that's the idea. I want my life to be about offering others help and resources and sharing, right? Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Hippocampus. Oh, you weren't familiar with hippocampus. Oh, well, that's like the frontal cortex of your brain that does reasoning. So like there isn't a whole lot to it when you're younger. And once you hit your teens, that's when it really starts to grow. And that's where logic comes from. That's why, because that's so messed up, but starting to develop, that's why some teens do such stupid shit. And you're just like, what were you thinking? And they can basically literally be like, I don't know, because they're kind of like very much still building those pathways and growing that area of their brain that allows them to reason. Yeah, it's a lot smaller when you're a kid, and it really starts to grow once you hit, I think it's 12. I'm not sure the exact age, but yeah, it's a big part of why people behave the way they do at different ages. You're welcome, Duke. I'm glad I was able to help you learn something. See, this is a really funny thing that I'm trying to work on with my channel. Yeah, there are kids that do develop earlier. It's true. There are some geniuses out there. But as I was saying, this is one of the reasons I have my channel, is to try and remember, share a lot of things that are just like I randomly learned in school at some point in some random class, and now it's second nature to me to think about like how the hippocampus works vaguely, because I don't know it, like a brain scientist, but I know it vaguely as in biology. And I would just sort of assume everybody knows that, which is really ignorant of me. And a lot of smart people, or people who know anything at all, have facts. Doctors, scientists, chemists, mathematicians, really, really genius, smart people can be really condescending jerks and dumb at times when trying to teach, because they can't remember what it means to not know. And they can't remember the fact that people don't just know shit that you know. They just don't. There's so much to know in the world. How could people? You have to assume that most everyone doesn't know what you know, and try to share as much as you can to fill in any little gaps of like stuff you have that they don't. But yeah, there's a lot of problems, I think, in going back to the problems of schools. Teachers assuming too much of what students already know. And that's funny. I think that's why a lot of people don't go into elementary teaching. Is because there's a lot more having to deal with the fact that the little people just don't know stuff that you think is common sense. And it's a lot harder to work with. Recent research about hippocampus in children who witnessed and suffered violent... Oh yeah, there's a lot of information behind the impact on the hippocampus in terms of like PTSD, and particularly there's a lot understanding around it's the hippocampus and the amygdala and the different connections that develop when you experience trauma from a young age, and consistently, not just like, because this is something I've been discussing a lot with people lately, and I should probably do a video on it, but there's two very distinct types of PTSD. A lot of people know this, but some people don't. There's post-traumatic stress disorder, in an experience where you have a traumatic event happen to you, but it's generally just one event, and it leaves you with a traumatized pathway that you need therapy to work on. And then there's complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which is the result of soldiers can get both, actually, is my argument, and children can also get both. The difference is that in complex cases, you have it over a long period of time. You have your trauma, rather. Your trauma is consistent seemingly there's no end to it, and it's over a large chunk of time. It could be as little as, I think, a month, I think 30 days or a week. Like, the chunk of time doesn't have to be long, but it does need to be more than one event and consistent, happening over and over, repeated abuse, basically. So, like, that's why a lot of children have complex PTSD out of being neglected, because that's just how they were raised. So until they got away, that was like 18 years of their life. And then in a lot of cases of soldiers, if they have, it really depends on their placement and what they experience. Sometimes they're placed in a rather quiet situation, and then they just have a one-time traumatic event, and they get removed because they experienced mental health issues. But there's others who are in more active areas over in the Middle East, for example, and are just consistently exposed to these traumatic factors or situations of fear over and over and over every day, and they end up in a more complex traumatic mindset, which is unfortunately harder to work on, though it can still be worked on. The complex is a term that is used by a restricted number of therapists. Yeah, I know the DSM refuses to include it, but they're fucking idiots, excuse me. Let's be real. Just because professionals don't accept it doesn't make it not real. Oh, you taught the French equivalent to your therapist. That's really interesting. They'd never heard of it. That doesn't surprise me at all, but it makes so much sense, doesn't it? I mean, okay, I met someone who had PTSD from getting hit by a car, and he discussed that it was just a couple. Katie Morton, yeah, she did talk about it. This person discussed with me that he had done just a couple therapy sessions, and they were very specific. I think they were EMDR. I'm not sure, but he said like that within, like, I think a month, he was good. Like, he was fixed, he was fine, he doesn't experience trauma anymore, the condition is gone. And PTSD from a traumatic event, that can happen. That can happen actually pretty easily if you get the proper help. Complex PTSD, you have a lot more deeper entrenched pathways. It's not one trauma that you're addressing. It's trauma after trauma after trauma, or a type of trauma in so many different ways, you can't even remember it all. It's basically, with complex PTSD, your trauma became your way of life for an extended period of time. And there's just no way that it doesn't make sense that clearly has different impacts on the brain than one traumatic event. And so, sorry to hear that you know that personally, Lulu, but then you understand what I mean, or it's just different. And both conditions can be healed from. PTSD a lot more, like, you can completely recover from PTSD. Complex PTSD is a bit more of something that requires coping and management, but you can recover to the point that the symptoms are basically not affecting you. They're for the most part a thing of the past. It just takes a lot more work, and a lot more therapy and consistent work on changing those pathways, because they're so deeply entrenched and well done. Current research knows only that the same therapies apply. They take much longer to treat PTSD. Yeah, I know. They are starting to experiment with other ways to treat the complex versus PTSD, like just regular PTSD, but you're right. Generally, like I was saying, it's mostly just that it's the same treatment for a longer time. Hello! I'm sorry, not sure how to pronounce your name, but welcome! Thank you so much for joining the conversation. 15 years of repeated traumas. Oh, I'm sorry. And 22 of therapies. Well, it's good that you've had treatment, Lulu. That's really awesome. There's so many people in the world who are just left traumatized. So I'm really glad you've gotten help in that sense. But it's not easy to recover from this stuff. And in my opinion, for me, I think I'm going to be in therapy my entire life. I think there'll always be something that I will just want some advice on, some mindful reminders to check in with myself and stuff like that. I find that they're really helpful in just keeping me in tune. It's like, they're like, okay, in my opinion, I see it as I won't need it as consistently in the future, but they will be basically my mental chiropractors. You know how every once in a while you go back to get yourself realigned? I mean, God, if I could afford it. I've never actually been to one, but so I hear. People do that because your spine can pop out a lot. I really like to think that therapy is a similar idea, that you just go and get yourself realigned in self-care, in self-reflection, in just little mental health things that can be hard to keep up when life gets busy. So yeah, I think I'll always be in therapy personally. I mean, and that's just me. That's because I'm really comfortable with it, and I think it's a good resource for me. If other people have had, I've heard some pretty bad experiences of people going to therapy, unfortunately. Like, just sad. My spouse is a really good example, and a few other people where they were just like, they just didn't meet nice people. They didn't meet nice professionals who really seemed to care and want to do the job that needed to be done, I guess. They were more about something else. I don't know. It's just because I feel like I've gotten so lucky. Oops, it froze. Oops. Well, I'm not sure where it froze at, but I was just saying that with my therapists, they've been really, really kind, and they've, like, my current therapist, she's a new one. The first one, I just got lucky. Like, we connected. She was really kind. I always felt like she cared. Oh, sorry. Well, I'm not sure what I was talking about, but going on about therapies. I really liked my first therapist. I was scared to switch, but the new one is also a bit more professional, but still really, really kind, and is offering me a free session because I can only afford one more until I get my paperwork processed again. She's going to give me a free one because she feels I could use one more than what I can afford right now, and that's just her time that she's just offering. And I'm like, yeah, I feel lucky, and I feel like amazingly lucky because so many other people haven't experienced that. Duke, you're hilarious. Why don't I take a course on becoming a therapist? So many people have suggested that to me. But it's so much schooling. They'll only let you do it if you go to like 8 years of schooling, and I just don't want the debt. You know? If I could just go to school without having to worry about paying for it, I might do that. But with the current system the way it is, I don't want to dedicate 8 years of my life. That's why I want to be a speaker and offer information just through my own research, and I can learn a lot about human psychology and about the different things that therapists understand. One, through experiencing therapy and through just researching Google Journal and various different, like Elliot, there's different search engines that can offer you different information. And having gone to university, as I say in my description, I've learned a lot about how to do proper research. So I have a lot of faith in my ability to gather information. So hence wanting to share that with people, wanting to make my life about educating. But with the current system requiring me to get a diploma in order to be a therapist, I just don't want to. I don't want to go through all that trouble and all that debt and everything. So maybe if things suddenly change and they decide to make post-secondary public access, maybe I will. We'll see. But in the meantime, do what I can. You need to learn to do better research. Oh, well, that's an idea, Lulu. Maybe I'm gonna write that down as an idea because I have. Oops, dropped my pen. I have idea. I've got so many different pages of ideas of things I want to do and stuff. But that's a good video idea. Is I can just do a video about research methods, like the different things that I've learned about proper research. And how to trust certain sources and, refute others and stuff like that. Yeah, okay. I mean, I've got so many different videos that I want to do, and right now I have one in the works. It's taking me forever. Sorry about that, guys, by the way, but in the works is my advertisement psychology, how to make money on YouTube sort of it's a duo video. You'll see. It's coming out soon. But I will put that down on my list. That's a really good idea of just something to share, because it is something I accidentally take for granted, that I've learned these research methods, and they're a really helpful thing to have. It took me a while to find proper info on mental health. Yeah, that's fair enough, and that is one of the reasons I make my videos, because it seems I'm honestly quite shocked to go out in the world and experience other people, like in different groups and studies I'm doing, and come to find that they know so much less than me about our conditions. And I'm like, doesn't everybody just look it up? Because I'm just like, isn't it just easy to get? No, of course not. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you didn't have a good therapist at first. Yeah, I know what that means, condescending. I had one in like a group that she was great in group, but when I had her one-on-one, I was just like, you make me feel like I'm an absolute burden on you. And that's not nice in therapy. So I didn't really continue with her. But otherwise, I've had a pretty good experience with most of the therapists that I've had, like, privately, which is nice. I'm really glad that you did find me on YouTube, though, and, I try to offer the help I can. I always try to remind people I'm not a professional, but I'm not spewing bullshit either. I'm not going to share something that I'm not certain of without, like, sources and my own therapists confirming that they make sense. So, okay, that's good to hear that your current therapist is a good one, though. You're lucky, and still, I'm sorry the first one was bad, but that's apparently very average of an experience. Like, most people just don't have a good time finding someone, because it's not just about, their ability to be a therapist. It's about how they click with you, too, unfortunately. Excuse me. It's about the personality clicks between you. That's a big thing to do with it. Make lists. Oh, yeah. And when I pointed to him after. Oh, your therapist told you that they can't explain, you won't understand. That's not right. I'm so sorry you went through that, Lulu. Yeah, no, I've had some real angels, I think, in terms of my therapy, where they've always been really respectful, and they've been like, this is what I feel you should do, but it's your life. Do what you're going to do. I can't make you. And then if I say I don't agree with them and I do something else, they respect that. And whenever I ask questions, like, they're always happy to explain more and to try and help me understand. So, you make me feel so much more lucky. Yeah. A bit more educated than others. Not. Pardon. Yeah, I get what you mean. It's just, and so that's the problem, is some people, like, these doctors forget, or they just don't actually understand what it means to be going through what we're going through, so they can be patronizing, they can be condescending, they can just be, yeah, D-bags. Unempathetic is the thing. They just can't sympathize in any sense, and so they get harsh about it. Because they think they understand the clear answers. Just do this. It's not that simple. It's frustrating, but yeah. Either way, I'm really grateful for the therapist that I have now, and I hope to continue with her. I mean, I plan to. Depends on the paperwork, as they say. Yeah, I hate that. Doctors can be such douches about missing appointments sometimes. At the same time, you have to respect their time. Like, the way my last therapist told me, funny thing, when we first started doing private therapies, where I was processing it through a compensation board I have here in Canada, she told me, if you have to miss an appointment and you can't give me 24 hours notice, if it's any less than 24 hours, I'm going to have to charge you, because I have to pay for the space. Like, no matter what, I'm still renting that space. Oh, he was always late. That's awful. But it sort of made sense to me when my therapist said this, because she's like, I still have to pay money even if you don't come. And I was like, okay, that does make sense. But each time that I did call, I think it was only like 3 times I called in a bit late and was like, I can't, I'm sick or whatever. She never actually would, charge me. She was really nice. Excuse me. She was really nice about that. She, because I guess that was just something she would tell everyone so that people wouldn't auto do it, or think that it was okay to do it a lot. But I don't know. She never ended up doing it, which I thought was really decent of her. But yeah, like when they have private offices, it makes sense that they have to pay a fee to rent it out, right? And you think, okay, so they have a monthly rent, but she said that she paid like per time that she used it, because she was actually renting a room, the office room of the other therapist that I did group with. They were all really interconnected in a net. But yeah, I've been really, really lucky with my therapy experiences, and I realize that, and I'm honestly really frustrated by it, because I've told other people, like I've seen their situations, I've heard their stories, and I've been like, you could use some help. Like you could really use some professional person to bounce what you're going through off of and to get some support. And they just can't find it. Not even just because they can't find a good person, but because the resources here in Canada for therapy are freaking crap. They're just crap. I've been so chaotically lucky. It's kind of crazy, and I'm very, very frustrated at watching other people try to get help who genuinely need it just as much as me, and have gone looking because I've told them you should, and just had a really hard time. Yeah, I know, you'd think because Canada has like healthcare that we'd have therapy covered. No, it's a very two-tier system here, unfortunately. So your hospital coverage is pretty okay, and like your doctor coverage is pretty okay. It seemed that Canada was much better than France. Oh, well, maybe, but when it comes to therapy, no. Your eye care isn't covered, your dental care isn't covered, your, whatchamacallit, hearing care isn't covered, your therapy, any mental health coverage isn't there either. They do have crisis centers, and they're popping up more and more, actually, which is really nice. You heard from some Canadians that they were the ones who got the fastest therapies. Well, they got lucky then, because, I mean, it depends. If you're in Toronto, there's a lot of resources, and if you're in a major city, you have a lot better chance of accessing some of the resources that are available. But small towns, you're pretty screwed. And it's particularly that they only have a lot of very limited generalized therapies available in emergency cases. Things of like, a limit of upwards of like 11 sessions or something like that, which isn't very much. And it's never with someone specified. When it comes to, if the ones we were checking out in Toronto, that makes sense. I've actually read a lot about some resources in Toronto that I was like, oh, I wish I lived there, because they've got some really good CBT stuff there, you're right. And I got in some really great CBT groups here in London, excuse me, but they've apparently shut one of them down. Go Canada. There's been a huge cut to our healthcare this year, and they cut all kinds of nurses. Oh yeah, Tobias, I'm glad that you have a good therapist as well, but, and a practitioner that specializes in psychotherapy. That is amazing. You're lucky, and that's rare. Yeah, that just doesn't happen very much in Canada. That's the great thing about YouTube, though. You're right, Lulu, is that you can find a lot of doctors and fascinating people on it that have information. So even if your local area doesn't have what you need, you can get a lot of it online. Hi, John. That's an interesting comment to make. Yes, Trump will make a hug change. A huge change, I assume is what you mean. I'm afraid of some of the changes he might make, but do you think he'll improve the mental health resources in the States, John? Yeah, please do send me the link, Lulu, if you don't mind. You do? Yeah? Well, that would be interesting to see. I wouldn't mind seeing him make some positive change. That would be quite surprising, but nice to see. But yeah, here in Canada, it's sort of touch and go. They do have some resources, but they're not very specified. And when it comes to certain trauma-based issues and BPD issues and very specific things that I've come to see various people I know have, you need specific therapists. Yeah, I'm afraid of what he might do to it. But I heard Obamacare was like really bad for messing people over for insurance. I don't know that much about it, to be honest, so I'm not going to speculate, but I just agree that something needs to be done where it's more accessible to people one way or the other. And here in Canada, if you need something specialized, you're pretty screwed, which the way to get a lot of good, decent help is to be able to specialize in the type of issues that you're dealing with. A therapist who knows about trauma, or a therapist who's really good with obsessive compulsive issues, or et cetera, et cetera. But Obamacare is better than no care. That's true. It's just I've understood. So Nat Lopez is a really good friend of mine from the US, and he told me something about how Obamacare, if you don't, they really fuck you if you don't pay like something. I don't, like, it's not just given to you, like, you know, how OHIP in Ontario is just there because you were born here. Like, you still have to pay for Obamacare, as far as I understand, and if you don't, you get really, really screwed over if you don't, like, pay your bill or something in a way that other people aren't, it's not in other systems. I don't know. I agree, there's, well, a perfect solution, yeah, but with the price going up higher, yeah, I don't know. The thing is that it needs to be, there needs to take the price tag off, is the thing. Like, putting a pay gate on people's health access is disgusting. But, you know, different systems, different views. I'm not going to speculate what they should do with the system. There's a very particular, I can't remember, Rockefeller, or there's a very rich person in the US who profited from basically industrializing the medical sector of the country, and I don't think it helped the country much. It just made him a lot of money. And, you know, as a lot of different things have shown in different countries, when you take care of your people without putting a pay gate in front of it, we just make more, we progress more, we create more, we do more, we build more, we innovate more, we entrepreneur more. So it only makes sense to put less pay gates on it. But that's just what I've learned. Anyways, in terms of the promise for art, you guys have kept me talking so much that I've done nothing. So I don't have any art to offer you guys this time. But maybe I'll do it for next time. Maybe we'll make it like a Christmas gift for someone, whoever participates. So I'm thinking, if you guys are open to it. Oh, where's my phone? Oh, my phone's over there. Okay, you'll have to, like, hold on 1 second while I go get my phone, because it has my schedule on it. Okay, so phone. We got the phone. Cool. Yes. Okay. Anyways, I think. What are we doing? Oh no, I have therapy on the second. Damn it. Right. So I'm not going to be able to. Is what needs to change. The poison us with. Oh, I agree, John. Agree so much. Oh my God, Big Pharma is the problem. They're not about helping people. They're about charging you. Couldn't agree more. Go watch my video on pharmacophobia. I insist. That is a big point. I really think is a huge problem with the issue. But anyways, this is going to be the conclusion of my chat for today. I really did have a good time talking to you guys, though. We got into so many different things. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Unfortunately, I can't do it again in 2 weeks because I have therapy that Friday, but I'm going to do it in 3 weeks. So December 9th is going to be the next live chat. We can come together and I'll share a little bit more about my life, and then we can yammer on about whatever comes up. Either way, I really enjoyed you guys. Thank you so much, Lulu. Thank you, Tobias, John. You guys were awesome. Thank you, Duke. I appreciated all of your participation. Thank you for becoming a fan as well, John. I appreciate it. And I like the talk. I'm really glad I started to do this with you guys. It's it's created a whole new series of just getting to know each other and chatting about how we feel about life and stuff. So thank you again for joining me. And for anyone watching this later, feel free to comment below about, whatever you want regarding the conversation on the YouTube channel. And do join me again on December 9th. That's what I said, right? December 9th for the next live chat. It will again be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, thank you so much, and I hope you guys have an absolutely lovely day. Take care. Bye!